The mediocre black woman. What comes to mind when y'all hear that? What are some phrases? What are some thoughts? What are some events, some people? That is going to be the topic for today's podcast, y'all. The mediocre black woman is a space created for black women to allow them to truly feel themselves. Now, the creative genius, the dynamic, the person behind it is my guest today, Goddess Theadora. She's a host, and through her movement, the mediocre black woman provides authentic storytelling. So without further ado, y'all, let's put our hands together and let's bring up Goddess Theadora. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly. Welcome to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you liking it so far?
Yes.
Yeah. I know it's I think the rain is a perfect welcome for you because this is what we get usually.
It is. So. Yes. My sister got me some boots forcibly because all I had was my Crocs. So yeah, I got an introduction to the Pacific Northwest for sure.
That's awesome. Well, without further ado, again, welcome to the podcast. If you want to just briefly tell the audience a little bit about your movement. I know I kind of just shouted it out, but a little bit about that and the inspiration behind starting that.
Yeah, so the mediocre black woman came on the heels of the election of 2024. Now, I know, y'all, that Kamala was not going to be our saving grace for systemic things happening in the United States. However, I did draw a parallel between what qualified black women like Kamala in her shoes go through every day of still being qualified, but yet not being received as enough or not feeling like enough. And so on the heels of that, I could not keep with the status quo. I've been podcasting for about 6 years now, and I've had different shows, help launch shows as well. And my last show was amazing, but it just didn't hit on what I wanted to focus on moving forward. And that was creating that safe space for black women to just be humanity, mess, rest, and all. Yeah.
Do you feel like, kind of going back to your childhood a bit, do you feel like growing up, did you see, I mean, I'm sure you've probably had some experiences that kind of left you kind of feeling a little weird, or either maybe people in your family and stuff. Growing up, what was that like, I guess, growing up as a black woman for yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember often kind of censoring myself a bit, people pleasing, something I still work through today, but just muting myself, kind of like a dim version, you know? I remember we had this neighbor growing up, and he was this youth pastor, and he always wanted feedback on his music, right? And so, and listen.
Was it good?
You know what? Let me not do that. It was, okay, I'll tell you what I was asked for a rating, and it was like a 6, right? Okay. And I would get called Thea Simon for it, like Simon Cowell from American Idol. Right. And so early on, I could just see that's just one of many examples of, like, you know, wanting people to, or people wanting you to kind of show up a certain way and being received in an interesting light when you do so, right? So, yeah, there was a lot of little experiences where I found myself kind of quieting myself or stifling myself, yeah. And
I think, I mean, even me, myself, as a black man, too, I think that is something I resonate with, because sometimes it's like you want to, especially when you walk into a room and you're like, man, should I dim my light a little bit? Because I don't want to overshadow people. You know, you're trying to be humble and stuff, but people always tell me, no, don't do that. Like, your life should inspire other people to kind of brighten theirs, you know, if anything.
Yeah, it should. But it can be, you know, I think because of a lot of what we've been through historically, it can be a challenge in remembering to still do that, even when, you know, there can be some fear around it, there can be some anxiety around it. But for a lot of our listeners that are here today, just knowing that some of these things are systemic and they do get passed down. And so every generation gets a little bit further in that pursuit of really becoming and stepping into the fullness and authenticity of who you are. And it's okay if you're not, you know, fully there yet right now, but you'll get there, right? It just takes time, and it takes, you know, intentional habit breaking, intentional cycle breaking, right, to do that.
And I think with that too is, I think a word that comes to my mind is perfection. And I think, especially in our community, we strive for it. Well, people in our community strive for perfection, but I think with us, it's like, it almost seems like we have little room for error,
Yes.
if that makes sense, you know? And it's like, hey, you know, you better get in line, make sure you're doing what you got to do. What's that been like for you, kind of chasing perfection and being like, you know what, I got to just kind of relax. Like, I can't, it's not sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we've all heard it, you know, being 15 minutes early is still being considered late, you know, and it's just all these little things of, you know, we have to be 10 times better than everybody else. And so we've been programmed with these things, right? And by force, I would say that I've learned over time, I have to listen to my body. I have to listen to my energy. And, you know, when you keep pushing for perfection, which, what is even perfection? If you ask 5 different people what perfection is to them, they're going to give you 5 different answers. And maybe ask them an hour later, they'll give you another answer, right? Because we're so fickle as human beings. We change all the time. So chasing perfection is a trivial pursuit, because what does that even really look like at the end of the day? But I learned through my body telling me a lot of times, you know, doing something anyway, even if I felt like, oh, my chest hurts because something's off with this, or my stomach hurts because something's off with this, and not listening to that intuition. So my body has started to tell me over the years. There was an experience I had when I was on the heels of my divorce, where I was at work and all of a sudden my neck just like locked up while I was at work. Wow. And I was like, what is going on? So then I go to a chiropractor for the first time ever, right? And he does all this work on me. And then he asks me, he says, why are you angry? Who are you mad at? Who are you sad about? I was like, dang, wow. Like, all up in my business, because your body will tell you. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it'll tell you when you need to sit down, when you need to take a break. And, you know, the more you stifle things, the more you try to chase perfection, like I did, like a lot of people do, your body will start to tell you, especially as you get older. You just can't ignore it. You can't run from it anymore. You have to listen.
Right. And were you able to, like, kind of going down that path, that person or thing you were angry about, were you able to kind of resolve that, or is that still pursuit?
It's resolved. I mean, I still have moments and flashbacks of like, really, I let that happen? We're all human. We go back there sometimes.
We all do that. I do that too.
Like, really, I let myself go through that? But, you know, also all the lessons that I learned from it. And I think that's where now I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I can do differently moving forward. Or, you know, oh, this is what I learned from it. Wow. And then sometimes I think about who would I have been if I hadn't gone through those lessons, right? So definitely resolved in some ways. But, you know, I have those old stinking thinking, that flashback. You know, we all do it from time to time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially me. I'm a very nostalgic person. I'm always going back into the past, going to, like, old places just to see, you know, get kind of reminisce a little bit. And sometimes I catch myself. I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't do that too much, because, you know, especially with the memories that are not so good. But they're kind of like growth points for me, where it's like I kind of walk away feeling proud of myself, because I'm like, man, I really grew from that time in my, you know, in my life where I wasn't as confident, or I wasn't as this or that, if that makes sense. So,
it does.
That's really good stuff. I think on top of perfection is another word that comes to my mind is excellence, especially with Black women chasing excellence. Now, I didn't do my research on this, but I know when it comes to the amount of single mother households, Black single mother households in the U.S., it's too high. It's too high. And I think with that comes and literally just before you, I had a podcast with another guy named Terrell, shout out to him, and we were just talking about this, the importance of having both the mother and the father in the household. And when one of them is kind of taken away, it really pushes the other to kind of chase that excellence. What has that looked like for you? And not just in your personal life, but also like when it comes to your podcast, like kind of chasing that excellence and like putting the best content out there, but also not getting carried away.
That's a difficult one. I think I would have to sit with that a little bit more. But my initial reaction to that question is, just from a creation standpoint, this podcast, I feel, has been the closest to my most vulnerable that I've shared. And I went into it with the intention of creating a space for the women that I love, right? So I thought about my sister, my best friend, my other best friend. I have a lot of best friends. My best friends on the East Coast and my sister. But I just thought about like the relationships that we have and sharing that with other women, because then it would almost give them permission to let down their guard. And so I feel like because I went into it with that energy, it just happened to blossom into this big thing, but I went into it with that energy. So I do think about my audience when it comes to, I'm putting this out there, why should they care, right? In the sense of I'm bringing them on the journey. So I might write something, right, on Substack, and I'll read it back and I'll say, well, how does this bring them on the journey, right? How am I including them in that? But because I did it for myself and the women that I love, and just to share that kind of energy with others, I don't know, it hasn't hit me in the same way that it has in the past. It's been fun to show up and create and to record and to share stories and to give people space to just be themselves. And so the content creation journey has definitely been different. I would say in the past that it was this kind of rat race. And actually, I used to be on specific platforms. I'm not going to name drop them here. But I got off of most socials besides Substack and YouTube. And that intentional visibility has been very different. It has allowed me to really focus on mission, right? So I don't know, I'm going to sit with that a little bit more, and maybe we can give your audience give them a written follow-up. I think I need to sit with that one a little bit more. But that's my initial reaction.
Interesting. And I'm assuming the whole movement and the podcast that you got going on, was this like a lifelong dream of yours, or did it just evolve over life experiences and what's been going on?
It evolved. It's interesting. So my major was communications, social media, and mass media, of all things.
Oh, so this is right up your alley then.
Well, I wanted to do broadcast, and I was going to go to another school that, was really specific on that, but I didn't. And then I, went down a whole different professional path, and then somehow ended up here on my own anyway. So, yeah, I guess in a way, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's been my lifelong vision, but I do really enjoy creating community, creating space. It's a part of my spiritual makeup of bringing people together. So, yeah, a little bit.
The biggest word for me is in the mediocre black woman is that word mediocre.
Yeah.
And mediocrity. And I'm not lying to you. I literally did a Google search because I know what it means, but I wanted to see what Google had to say about it stuff. But when you hear that word, what does mediocrity mean to you personally?
Okay, let me start by saying what it means to others, because it has triggered a lot of people. I had one guest on my show who was like, mediocre, when she first saw the name mediocre. We can't be mediocre. We're supposed to be excellent. And then when she got into the content, she was like, oh, okay. So being mediocre, from my perspective, is really about recentering ourselves. So this is actually a part of the mission that I don't talk about a lot, but it was like twofold petty, right? So in the sense that, I don't know if you've heard the term the mediocre white man, where, they can get promoted to different roles, get ahead with minimal work. We all have experienced that on some levels. I remember training people who were, my senior and still being, the junior in the room, but having to train and upskill people that, in theory should come with the skills that I already have, right? So we all have experienced some level of that. So it was my attempt at recentering ourselves first in that narrative of our mediocre, I was trying to say mediocre and mediocrity. Our mediocrity is excellence, right? So my C+ work is somebody else's A++ work, right? So it was kind of a petty mission in that sense of the name of recentering ourselves in the narrative. But it was also an attempt at letting Black women know that you're enough, even on your worst days, even on your messy days. You get the permission to sometimes be mediocre, sometimes show up, with you. That's it. But really being mediocre is me being enough, right? In that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, because initially when I did come across your page, I was like, there has to be a bigger meaning for that. Because she's obviously not saying, every Black woman is mediocre. No, obviously not. But especially the comparison with the mediocre white man. I've never heard that before, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I'm assuming it's not a new...
No, it's not a new term, but I don't know if people say it widely. They might say it in other ways. Yeah. Let me follow this up, too, with this other story, because you said something that really triggered a memory. So there was a brand in California where I grew up, and they created jewelry called I Am Enough, right? And so I got this piece from this woman, and my necklace said, I am enough. And I remember when I was walking around wearing it, I would have people say to me, oh, but Theadora, you're more than enough. And I was like, no, that is not the point.
You're missing the point.
Yeah, I am enough, just as is, not more than, not less than, just enough, right? And so I think like it was so interesting hearing you say the mediocre Black woman. Well, there has to be more behind it, right? And so it just reminded me of that mission of like, I'm enough, and people were just constantly telling me, no, you're more than enough, Theodora. You know, you got to be this, you got to be that. I'm like, no. Me, if I never did another thing, if you never did another thing, you are enough. That's it. You know, you can do more. We always will do more. But if you never did another thing, you are enough.
Because you strip away the host role, the podcast, everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're even here, because me personally, you know, being a believer in, you know, God and being created and all that, I think everyone does have their own purpose.
Yeah.
And you being born is already a miracle in itself, you know. So let alone now you know, embarking on your purpose, doing the podcast, doing this X, Y, and Z is even better. So I think that's, maybe I need to get a necklace like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, right? Or just write that on I got a little whiteboard at home, so maybe I need to write that. I want to transition a little bit into beliefs and kind of societal expectations. So is there a belief or maybe like an expectation on your journey with your podcast and your movement and what you're doing right now that you had to unlearn in order to continue to grow? That you were like, you know what? I think this old belief that I had that either someone like an old teacher or somebody told me about is just not true, or I heard it on TV or whatever.
I would say that this is a more recent belief that I acquired through my line of work. So my background is in project management, and I would create courses for executives at tech companies, right? And so inclusive learning was a big part of what we would do around, you know, creating things that are DEI, you know, specific, that really just align with the mission of the company, that bring, you know, everyone into frame, that make sure that things are equitable, right? All of that. And so when creating my space, I got a lot of questions around who is this for, which I found to be very interesting considering what the title is of the podcast. And so I kept going through this tension of like, well, trying to explain my viewpoint on the world and realizing, okay, I don't need to explain, right? Yes, I created the space for Black women, but if you see yourself in the work, in my words, which people will do because there's intersectionality between me being a woman and me being Black, as long as you come here, you know, receive, but you don't necessarily center yourself, it's okay, right? And so kind of that struggle of feeling like I needed to always explain myself or why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, I love all people. I would love to have everybody included. There just sometimes do need to be spaces that are created for people to let themselves, you know, let their guards down. That's why I created this particular space. But that need to explain myself. Also, kind of even breaking away from my background of having to try to make every space inclusive. That was... I think that was something.
It's a tricky thing, right?
Yeah, that was something that I definitely have been unlearning a bit of. But again, I have this different, unique perspective of like, I can create this space and you can see yourself in it, you can see yourself in it, but just there's a way to show up and still not center yourself, but still get fed at the same time. So yeah, that explanation all the time of like why I'm doing what I'm doing, who it's for, that really stressed me out. And I had never had that happen with any of my other podcasts. I was like, wow, it's interesting that as soon as I'm creating something for Black women, I'm getting all of these questions.
All these questions, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think that like, I don't know if anybody has ever asked you who your podcast is for, a Black experience. Oh. Has that happened?
It has happened, yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
I mean,
so interesting.
It's really, you know, they hear it and then they're thinking, you know, okay, well... And the majority of my guests obviously have been Black, or from that origin. And I think on one hand, it's good because we, as podcasters, as content creators, we try to find that niche, right? Yes. Okay, this is our group, this is our people. I was telling you, the younger generation, 18 to 34, Black professionals, that's kind of my target audience right now. Does that mean that if you're not in that demographic or whatever, you can't tap in, you can't listen, you can't do that? No, not necessarily. So I think I kind of find it a little challenging because it's like, how do I explain it in a way where it's like, hey, this is just my niche, this is what I'm focused on, but it's obviously for the whole world to listen to take part in. In fact, other people that are not in there can walk away, you know, feeling inspired or feeling a certain way or maybe unlearn a belief.
Yeah.
Right? because it's in those spaces. I went to Western up in Bellingham. It's like about maybe 2.5 hours up north, very close to the border. And I was president of the Black Student Union. 2021, 2022 school year. It was amazing. Everyone wore masks. It was the year that we came back and everyone was masked up. You can't see people's facial reactions, nothing. And I remember I had friends that were not black that would ask me, hey, can we come to the BSU? You know, we heard you're president. Can we come there? Can we have fun? I'm like, yeah, of course you can.
Yeah.
Because I think they were thinking, oh my God, because I'm not black, I can't relate, I can't do that. But I think on the other hand, if you're not black, I think you should come into those spaces, respect those spaces, because it's conversations in those spaces that are not going to be opened up in other spaces because people come there that talk about experiences. Oh, this just happened to me on campus today. Well, if the person that's not in that community won't be able to hear that if you're just kind of excluding them. That's kind of my perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know that was kind of long-winded, but...
No, but that makes a lot of sense. That's helpful.
So...
Okay, BSU, me too. I was the VP of my BSU.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think both you and I are like people that kind of socialize and stuff and try to do that. You know, I really, that was my goal, like right after COVID especially. Just trying to get to meet people. And we had so many clubs that were like dying because virtual meetings, no one wanted to do virtual. And it was a whole nother thing. So.
Wow, I can't even imagine, going through that. Wow.
Yeah.
In school. Wow.
Yeah, and this is in college, so it's, but we got through it. We got through it. Now here we are.
Here we are in person.
So, Goddess, we are actually kind of nearing the end of the podcast, and we're kind of at a point right now where before I even get to my favorite question, I just realized that I didn't actually ask you the icebreaker at the beginning.
We just went into it.
We went right into it, and so we're going to dive into the icebreaker, y'all, before we head into the deep end, which is I asked the advice question. And the icebreaker question is, if you could describe the mediocre black woman as a mood, a song, or a meal, what would it be? It could be all three. It could be just two. It could be one thing.
As a song. And I'm cheating, so I'm not following instructions. But there's two, right? So because I love music. The first one is my own song, Messy Goddess. And it's because the brand itself, I feel like, is messy. It's, raw. It's just out there, right? Yeah. And then Break Your Soul by Beyonce. I don't know if that's the actual title, but You Won't Break My Soul. I was I was at getting a facial somewhere, and I heard that song playing, and it was the part where it was like, release your job, and I was like, oh, that sounds like my people right now, because we were talking about like people, getting terminated from jobs, laid off from jobs, quitting jobs. And so it just felt like we were just releasing a lot through the brand. And so I ended up changing my music for my intro to a house song because I really liked the energy of that song and what it just said for our people. Heck yeah! Shout out Beyonce. Yeah. Shout out Beyonce and Jay-Z. Man, they're a power couple. That's cool. Well, Goddess, we are at the D point, and this is where I ask my favorite question. Okay. So I usually broaden it to the younger generation, but as well as I want to kind of specify more to black women that are listening to this right now that maybe don't have that necklace, that I am enough necklace, that don't feel like they're enough right now, that are maybe, they've got a lot of expectations, a lot of things. They got kids, they got school, they're doing this, X, Y, and Z. What advice would you give to those people right now that are listening to this that need some inspiration, little something for the week? I would say, wherever you are, make sure to carve out just at least 5 minutes of your day for yourself, right? Because we're doing all these things for other people, right? My sister knows I bring a candle with me everywhere that I travel, a big pillar candle. Yeah. So I still do my prayer. I still do my journaling when I'm anywhere, everywhere. So wherever you are, even when it's busy, even when it's crazy, you take 5 minutes out of your day for yourself to think about what you want. And I know that we got to survive right now. A lot of us are in transition. A lot of us are figuring things out. But where you can, take those 5 minutes for yourself. Mm-hmm. Very important. Yeah. I actually just recently I've been trying to do that. Like in the morning before I get on my phone, let me just take 5 minutes, say a quick prayer or whatever, and just be kind of in the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. And just kind of
tune out the music and the noise. But that's some great advice. Well, Goddess, if you want to plug your channel and your socials and where people can connect with you and find what you're doing.
Yeah, so you all can find us on Substack. I write and I publish podcast episodes. We do video and audio, and sometimes we just do live, meetups. Actually, we're doing a share dinner with me pretty soon on our Substack Live, so you'll want to be a part of those in the future. And we're also on Patreon and we're on YouTube.
There we go. Tap in with her, y'all, and go support her. Thank you for your time, Goddess, and welcome again to Seattle.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy your stay. And as season 6 rolls on, y'all, stay tuned. Share this episode with someone that you feel like could leave inspired. Give it a like and hit that subscribe button, and we will catch y'all on future episodes. Till next time, y'all. Peace. What is up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to that episode. Make sure to click the subscribe, follow button, as well as the bell to get notified on all my new content that is coming out every Wednesday and every other day. And make sure to click that link in the description down below to get access to all my socials and any other platforms that I have my podcast on. And until next time, y'all, peace.